Welcome back, everybody, to another fantastic episode of the Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast. I am one of your hosts, Professor Chris G. On the other line with me is my water buddy. It's good old Dougie Fresh. Dougie, my man, how you doing?
I am doing well. That intro kind of rhymed.
I didn't mean for it to, but if it did, perfect.
I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to talk about this kind of what felt like a throwback episode.
Awesome. And also joining us is our latest guest on this 11 episode adventure. He is one half of the Pokemon Adventures podcast, which comes out every 2 weeks for you. So go and take a look for it on iTunes. It's good old Sergio. Sergio, how are you doing today?
How's it going, everybody? I'm doing well and happy and excited to be back on the Every Pokemon Episode podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for coming back.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it's no secret now for people that are listening to this episode that we're trying to have a special guest every single week on this special on this special 11-week adventure with Ash, and you are the next guest on this adventure, and it's actually pretty good because you actually do keep up with the Japanese version of Pokemon, kind of similar to me. I know Doug is a little new to the Japanese annotation of Pokemon, but it's nice to have someone that actually follows it and has been following it for like the past year.
Yeah.
So, all right, but let's go ahead and get a little bit of chit chat out of the way. How have you been doing, Sergio, since the last time we spoke to you?
Doing good, keeping busy. I'm just trying to do whatever I can to keep moving with life, and also keeping up with my my Pokemon adventures here and there. So, just doing whatever I can.
All right. Well, that's good. That's good. Doug, how are you doing on this awesome Monday?
I mean, like I say, I'm always excited to get on here and chop up one of these episodes. Got us a little bit of a different day, so it's kind of nice.
Yeah, we're doing this
earlier.
We're doing this on a Monday, which means that frees up the whole rest of our week this week.
I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. But no, I just, sitting here on what many consider should be a holiday because a lot of folks are probably hungover. I mean, obviously this isn't coming out live, but we just watched the Super Bowl yesterday, so a lot of people are either cussing or counting money, possibly a little of both.
Yeah.
So yeah, just excited to be on here with everybody and talking about what I thought was a pretty decent episode.
Yes, and the episode that we're talking about today, and all of you clicked on this episode, so you know which one we're talking about. We are talking about episode 1228, the latest as of right now. There is literally no other episode of Pokemon out as we speak in regards to anything Japanese, English, or otherwise, and this episode is called Burn, the Zenigame Fire Brigade, which I will kind of try to translate Burn the Squirtle Squad Fire Brigade is what I'm gonna call it, because Zenigame is Squirtle in Japanese. So yeah, this was some episode. This really felt like, as you stated off air, Doug, like a big throwback episode that we're getting ready to go through on this week's episode, and it's pretty funny the way that they actually put this episode together. So it'll be kind of refreshing once we get into it.
Yeah, and this episode, I mean, it's no secret that I thought that last week was kind of And I mean, this week there was at least a little bit of like external conflict, like that kind of found the group as opposed to Ash kind of making the rehabilitation of oh, for goodness sakes. Beartick. The rehabilitation of that Beartick his own business. Like, that was a wild Beartick. Like, he had no, that wasn't his deal.
He did, and I'm surprised that Beartick was as calm as he was in that episode. So, but all right, Sergio, I do have a question for you, and I don't normally ask this, but since this is kind of a throwback episode on the original Pokemon game, Red and Blue, what Pokemon is your go-to? Was it Squirtle, Charmander, or Bulbasaur?
I want to say for me, it was definitely Squirtle. So the first few times I played the game, because obviously as a kid you played it multiple times, and
Yes.
I remember the first copy that I got my hands on wasn't even mine; it was a friend of mine, and I immediately just went to Squirtle. I'm like, all right, cool, I'm gonna choose Squirtle for the first few times. And then, it was always Squirtle. And I remember being super excited whenever he would learn like a new move. I remember finding one of the TMs. I think it was Bubble Beam. And I was like, oh, man, this is so cool. I remember thinking to myself, like, man, I don't even think Ash's Squirtle knows Bubble Beam. This is awesome.
That's awesome. And if I'm not mistaken, Doug, you were always on the water side as well, right? You're
No, I was fire the whole way. I didn't even hesitate.
Oh, fire.
I some of the later games I kind of went with like how the Pokemon looked. Like, I went on a superficial level, and I do remember when the newest generation came out, I was drawn to the duck.
Okay.
Over the fire alligator.
That fire alligator is pretty boss, though. I'm not gonna lie.
It is.
But we also had what was it? I forget what he started as, but the final evolution was for alligator.
Totodile. Yes.
Oh, was that? No, okay, no, I'm thinking of the fire, not Totodile. I'm thinking of the fire chicken. Blaziken.
Tortic?
Yeah, he evolved into Blaziken, yeah. But yeah, so I kind of just went on a superficial level, and that duck, especially because that duck, just looking at the description, Quaxley.
Yes.
That Pokemon had OCD, and I felt like I would pick that Pokemon out of solidarity.
If you want something funny to look at, go ahead and look up a YouTube video of its final evolution and just watch it battle. I think I am not a fan of it. I was not a fan of Quaxley at all. I went with the crocodile, and when he gets to his final form, I believe he's a ghost fire type. Yeah. He is awesome. Oh man, I was all over that. I was like, okay, cool. But
what I also thought it was cool was that they finally gave us a final startle quadruped, because for the longest we've been getting all these final evolution starters that are always on both. They stand on their in their final evolution. So it was pretty cool to finally get another one that finally walks on all fours.
Yes, and I love it. I mean, let's see. I'm pulling up the Scarlet and Violet Pokédex right now. So we had me. I could never even pronounce this. Meowscarada.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, she's pretty cool. Skeledirge was obviously that one was mine, and then you had Quaquaval.
That one's hard to pronounce.
Yeah, Quaquaval is what it is, and that's a water fighting. Let's see, Skeledirge is a fire ghost, which I don't see how it became a ghost, because I mean, did it kind of kill itself when it evolved? And then and then you have Meowscarada, who is a grass dark, which I mean I can see that, but Skeledirge is the only one that doesn't make sense out of all of it, because I mean I feel like part of its soul just leaves its body when it evolves into its final form. But maybe that's just me.
That's always the question with the ghost types. You always wonder. I'm like, wait, what happened that caused you to become a ghost type? Because you didn't start that way. Because I believe the one of the starters from the Alola region, from the 7th generation, Rowlet.
Yes.
He undergoes the same transformation. He starts off as a grass flying type, and then he ends up as a grass ghost.
Huh. Yeah, that is. I kind of wonder that myself. Pokemon, answer these questions for us. We have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just like you, Doug. I'm fire all the way when it comes to well, especially when it came out to the first generation of Pokemon. I found out that Charmander evolved into a dragon type, and I was all over that. That was just me, and that I had 2 Game Boys, so I was the spoiled one that had both red and blue, and I would just start a new file on blue version and just transfer over Bulbasaur and transfer over Squirtle, and I would have all 3 starters on my red version. That's how I did it.
Yeah, I think I did that a few times. It was, I think, watching Ash in the anime have all 3 starters, it was hard not to want the same team that he had.
Yes, it was. And I mean, and it kind of sucks because I mean, you can't just make all of your Pokemon just all these like OG and just fly through the game, because at some point the Pokemon will stop listening to you, and I hated that.
Oh yeah.
And it was even harder if you were not the original owner, then it really didn't want to listen to you. So but
yeah, I remember my surprise the first time that happened. I was like, "What is going on?"
My son went through that with the shining pearl, or the diamond and pearl for the Nintendo Switch, and I was transferring some Pokemon over to him, and I was like, "Well, you need to get some gym badges, or they're not going to listen." He's like, "Oh, I'll be fine. I was like, "Oh, okay. I'm going to give you these, and you're going to be mad." And that boy was almost hitting his head on the table. Not a good thing to do, kids. So. All right, so are you guys ready to jump on into the latest episode? Are you guys ready?
Let's do this.
Definitely, yeah.
All right. So I have the episode up right here, and I'm going to make it full screen so I don't have anything on here. And all right, so what I'm going to do is I've been saying this for every guest. I'm going to start, and then Sergio, I'm going to pass it on over to you to do a scene, and then from you it's going to go over to Doug, and then we'll just revolve around that circle going through this episode today. So
sounds good.
All right. So we start this week with the narrator basically saying Ash, Brock, and Misty have nowhere that no adventure or plans or anything. He just says they're going to continue their aimless free journey, and they have arrived at a certain port town. So the town doesn't even have a name. And Ash is like, "Oh man, this town is big." Missy's looking over and she's like, "Looks like we'll be able to relax at a Pokemon Center today." Brock is looking all sorts of happy, and then all of a sudden a Venonat walks right over to Misty, and Misty, I'm at a freeze frame at 19 seconds, and her eyes bug out of her head, pun intended.
Right.
And she's like, oh my goodness. And she goes and she runs behind Brock, and this trainer looks at his Venonat and was like, Venonat, get over here. Venonat's like, oh, I was just trying to go over to the nice little lady. And it's like, Venonat, and it just starts running back over to its trainer. And Brock looks back at Misty and is like, so you still haven't gotten over your fear of dealing with bug Pokemon, huh? And she's like, no, not really. And then it's at this point that we see, let's see, we see a Hariyama. I believe that's what that Pokemon, a Hariyama and a
sumo looking dude.
Yes.
Right.
And then we have a Camerupt, and they're both at a construction site, which will come back into play a little bit later on. Ash is waving over at those Pokemon, and these kids start running by, and they're talking about, oh, we're gonna miss the show. And that's where we jump into the main part of this episode. Ash is like, wait a minute, what show? Well, we got nothing else to do, so let's go find out. So they walk over to this random park, and it looks like they have a bunch of construction workers putting up a stage because there's about to be a play going on. And they look over at the poster, and there's Ash's Squirtle with the Squirtle Squad, and his Squirtle is looking all sorts of just pumped, and I'm gonna say muscular because that's what the picture looks like. And then all the rest of the Squirtle are kind of looking like, yeah, we're here. That's
so weird. Look, I'm paused at 55 seconds.
Yes.
Like, obviously Ash's Squirtle is in the middle because it's the leader. It's got the different sunglasses. And then how easy would it have been for the other four Squirtles to just be standing by its side with its arms crossed, kind of like, yeah, we're cool. But no, they're doing like the WWE watching TV backstage angle. Like that doesn't even look natural.
No, it does not. It kind of looks and people are gonna kill me when I say this, but I don't give a fuck. It's when I think of like Backstreet Boys. So
yeah.
It's like Nick Carter is in the front, and then you have everybody else in the back that's just happy to be there. And that's literally what I thought of when I was looking at this. I was like, okay, so his Squirtle is the leader, and then we got these other ones right here. So
that's literally what it is. Like,
uh-huh.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, I was just going to say that definitely gives us the vibe that it's a Squirtle and his squad.
Yes.
And it's just the four behind Ash's Squirtle, they're completely interchangeable. Like, they could each fill the same part. Like, it's not like one's doing thumbs up and one's doing a peace sign. Like, no, they've all got the same backwards, hands on hips pose. And like, you could just find another Squirtle and just sub them in and nobody would blink.
No.
But if Ash's Squirtle wasn't there, they go, "Hey, a minute, where's the leader?"
Yeah, because he has the cool sunglasses. His sunglasses have a point at the end.
Yeah.
So, and Ash is looking at this poster and all, and he's like, man, Squirtle. And Pikachu's like, yeah, that's my old friend. And we jump into the theme song here, and
there's the skip intro button, you little sucker, and only pops up when it wants to.
I know. What we're watching it on now, I think this is going to be the go-to website now.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to hang on to this link in the Discord chat because that's handy as shit.
and there they are, and I'm only gonna wave my fist at them because they yelled at me at one of our episodes at the end of the intro. Show Pro, love you guys. even though they made me take down one of our episodes on YouTube and then have to re-upload it after editing it. But I'm shaking my fist at you.
Oh yeah, YouTube, Show Pro on YouTube can be a bit of a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Well, it was my fault. It was on one of our earlier episodes. I believe it was the Butterfree one, and we played the sad song that was played in that episode that day. And ShowPro was like, "Yeah, you could talk about this episode, but you're not gonna play this song." So,
Wow.
yeah. So they sent us over a nice little notice, but it's all good. It got taken care of. So.
Okay.
But Sergio, all right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand this on over to you right after the title sequence, and you can go over the next scene.
Okay, so we pick up right after the intro. We get Ash, Misty, and Brock still looking at the Zenigame Fire Squad show. They're looking at the billboard, so of course they're like, "Oh, we know this is happening right now." Then we get a little montage where it shows Ash's Squirtle, I guess obviously from back in the day because he's looking a little younger here. It says, once upon a time in his travels with his friends, Satoshi caught in Zenigame, which is, Squirtle in Japanese. And then, let's see, then of course it shows that where he is now, and it shows that he's part of the Fire Squad. And we get another picture of the Squirtles, but this time it's I guess the backup Squirtles have a better pose because at least now they're facing forward and they're shooting a water gun.
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't be doing that in the poster. Come on.
Oh,
Exactly. I guess they saved it for the trailer.
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it says here that now he's the fire chief for a day events. That's I guess the name of the group.
Yeah, he was fire chief in a certain town, and I just think it's funny because when they show the fire chief for the day, they're not showing the full Squirtle Squad. They're showing they're showing just Ash's Squirtle, just looking all sorts of boss, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm the chief for the day."
Yeah, exactly.
He's got a hat and a sash, and he's striking a pose. No other Squirtles to be seen in this shot here.
You would think that Ash's Squirtle would at least be a war turtle because of the amount of attention that he's getting.
You would think so, but I mean, I think he's fully. I'm never evolving. I have the power of a Blastoise and a Squirtle body. Could you imagine what Ash's Squirtle would be able to do if it was a Blastoise? Oh my goodness!
Oh man! Exactly.
All right, you can go ahead and continue if you would like.
Yeah, so it says we go back to Ash and Misty and Brock, and Misty's telling Ash like, "Oh yeah, I heard your Squirtle is really popular," and Ash's response is like, "Yeah, he must be working really hard." And then from here, this is Pikachu. They make the decision to let's go check out the show. I mean, we're in town, why not? Now, little pause there because one of the things that I noticed here in the show is that they have not made any mention what town or region that they're in, right?
Yes.
So the only thing that I could assume here is that he has to be in Kanto. He's got to be somewhere in Kanto because, well, Squirtle's here, and also, which going into the next scene, that's where Ash takes out his Bulbasaur and Charizard. So I can only assume they got to be in Kanto.
I mean, you would think so. I would, because they're kind of all over the place. Let me see. What was the last week? They were, I think they were in 2 episodes ago they were in Galar. Let's see.
Yeah, because where Brock got lost, right?
Yeah, where Brock got lost. Last week we were with Beartick, and I'm trying to think of where would Beartick what region is Beartick from?
I would say the Unova because we've dealt with him in some Black and White episodes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. It's got to be Unova, and then we also saw Oshawott, so he's
Yes.
also from the same region.
So yeah, I would guess they're somewhere in Kanto, which means Ash, you better go see your mother. Actually, I don't think your mother really cares anymore. I think she's at the point now where
Exactly.
all my men have left me. But all
So
right.
yeah, going back to the scene. So Ash takes out his Charizard and Bulbasaur, and they look at the little billboard of Squirtle, and then Bulbasaur and Charizard. They're over here like, whoa, like, hey, we know him. He's famous now.
The look on their face when they do the triangle split is just
Right.
And from there, Bulbasaur is just jumping up and down. Doug, you want to take over here with the next scene with Team Rocket?
So Team Rocket. So basically, they all agree that they're going to go see the show, and then we do an immediate cut to Team Rocket, and Jesse and James are behind a souvenir stand, and Jesse is wearing leader sunglasses, and James is wearing lemming sunglasses, and they've got some flags and some pendants, and we kind of find out that they have kind of taken over as the Squirtle Squad's managers, like in terms of like booking them for events and appearances and stuff. And Meowth is talking about how much merch that they sell, and
we get to sell lots of tie-in merch and rake in the dough, Meow.
And Wobbuffet, he's wearing leader sunglasses, but he's also got a pair of lemmings, and he's swapping them in and out. And we see a bunch of people at the souvenir kiosk, and we've got off to the right side, we've got a little kid kind of dragging his mom to the stuff, and Team Rocket's basically like, step right up, you're gonna see the show, you gotta get some merch. And they're moving back and forth, and they're like, how about a pin and all this stuff, and Ash pops up, he's like, hey, yo, and Jesse obviously recognizes that it's a twerp right away, but Ash is looking down right away at some of the stuff, and he doesn't notice that it's Jesse, and he goes, what sort of merch are you selling? Not like he has eyes or anything.
Is it bad that I like that they don't call Ash a twerp in the Japanese version, but they call him Brat Boy?
Oh yeah.
I do love that. I like Brat Boy than I do twerp that we get in the English version.
I don't know. I kind of like twerp. Kind of seems a little bit more innocent than brat.
Ash is a brat.
I think my favorite running gag here is the fact that Ash never recognizes Jesse and James.
No, he's focused on the stuff. He's not focused on who's selling it.
Oh yeah.
So Jesse immediately goes into hard sell mode. She's like, well, we have exclusive fans, we have glow sticks, we have cheering costumes, and we see that she's pointing to, it seems like they also have the Squirtle Squad jacket on sale, which can't be cheap. And she's like, we got all kinds of stuff. And then we do a screen wipe. We see Pikachu is completely kitted out. He's got a jacket and leader sunglasses and a flag.
I want this Pikachu in my video game now. This Pikachu looks so cool.
Yeah, where's the pop vinyl? I know they're still going off. We see Brock got himself some leader sunglasses, Misty got herself a cheering stick. Ash didn't get anything, but that's probably because Pikachu got 3 things. And doesn't have any
does.
money.
He does. He got a baton. He has a nice little baton in his hand.
Oh, I guess he does. I thought it was kind of blending in with the, he does have a baton. So, yeah, and Pikachu's like showing off like, I'm bad, I'm ready. And, they're like, oh, the show's starting. And, Brock has to move his sunglasses up to see. I thought that was a nice touch. And the first thing we see is Team Rocket, and they have done a costume change, and they are calling themselves Team. Well, first they do an updated motto to fit with the theme of the show. They're talking about preventing fire safety and saving the world's infernos, preserving the world's infernos, championing the evils of fire and smoke.
I do like these costumes on Team Rocket, by the way.
James says we're hot villains.
The Team Blaze duo is what they're calling themselves.
Team Blaze, of course. I could have. So,
which I'm actually surprised we don't have an actual Pokemon villain team with that name.
For real, all the. I mean, you would think that with all the Pokemon games that we've had, that there would be one of them that's like this, but no. But
yeah, the closest one we got was Team Magma.
Yes,
Team Magma. Yes.
Yeah.
And there's something I'll bring it up. Don't let me forget at the very end of this episode that I'm very, very excited for, and I might be more excited than I need to be in regards to a future episodes. But I'll bring that up at the very end. So please don't let me forget that. Either one of you.
Gotcha.
For sure.
All right, and. Let's see. It's at this point that Team Rocket, that's kind of cool. They're on top of a ladder and they're kind of leaning back, and they have a whole bunch of pretend flames behind them. And Meowth and Wobbuffet are off in the corner, looking on. They're like, "Oh yeah, they have no idea what they're in for." And Ash is like, "Team Blaze." And Missy, of course, is like, I feel like I've seen these people before. And of course you have, because you've seen them like every single day in your original adventures with Ash. But Jessie's like, hey, we're gonna start a fire. And she's talking about the play that they're in as of right now. And James is like, ready, set, blaze. And you have some pyro that ends up going off on the stage, scares the little kids in the front row. I like that little touch. And then you have the Squirtle Squad come out of nowhere dressed as Power Rangers. You got the Blue Ranger, Green Ranger, Red Ranger, Yellow Ranger, and Pink Ranger. All 5. And they're like, yeah, we're the Squirtle Squad. And then they do a nice little pose, and all the kids go crazy. And they're like, oh my gosh, it's really them. This is so cool. And and Jessie is like, so you show yourself, Squirtle Squad, Fire Squad, and they're playing the characters that they're portraying. Ash's Squirtle and the rest of the gang put out the fire that's on the stage, and all the kids and everybody is going wild. Sergio, you want to go into the next part where Squirtle sees Ash?
Yeah. So yeah, what's it called? They're the whole Mighty Morphin Squirtle Squad here is putting out the fire that Team Blaze supposedly put up, and then Ash the Squirtle goes up in the air while shooting water gun, and that's where he notices Ash, and it's actually a really cute moment because he takes off his shades. He's like, oh wow, it's obviously my trainer, and it pumps Squirtle up. He's probably feeling a lot more hyped up now. He ends up giving a huge water gun, and then the rest of the Squirtle Squad is also doing it. They put out the fire, and that's when Team Rocket as Team Blaze. They're like, okay, we give up. We surrender. They're like bowing down to them. They're like, we'll never do evil again. We got Meowth and Wobbuffet in the back. They're over here, kind of chuckling away. Obviously, we know that they got some sort of evil plan behind all this, as usual.
Yes.
So that's kind of to conclude the show. We get the Squirtle Squad doing do you guys watch Dragon Ball Z, right? Do you guys remember the Ginyu squad or the Ginyu force?
Yes, I do.
It reminds me so much of that those poses that they're doing. Those definitely the Ginyu forces poses.
It is. It really is.
Yeah, we get the last two at the end, kind of pointing their hands up. The middle two reaching low, and then the leader, Ash's Squirtle, he's just with hands on his hips, just looking like a total boss. And that concludes the Squirtle Fire Brigade show.
Yes.
Everybody's cheering, everybody's hooray! That we cut to Ash, Misty, and Brock. They're all celebrating. It was a good show. And then I think one of them says they seem more like the heroes than the Fire Squad. And then that's when we cut to I think the next part where Jesse and James are taking off their their costumes. They're back to the to being managers, and then pretty much addressing the crowd like, "There you have it, everyone. This is the Squirtle Fire Squad." And then they announce that they're going to have handshake sessions and photo shoots. And so, of course, they're obviously making money out of all these little kids, hustling them all.
It's not a bad little gig for once that Team Rocket has going on. Like this, I mean, until we find out at the very ending, like this is not a bad gig for them to make a little bit of side cash. They're raking in the money over here.
It's really not. I feel like they have the brains to make money. We see it literally in almost every episode, but they waste all their manpower and energy just trying to catch Ash's Pikachu.
Right.
Yeah. For real. Doug, you want to go over the next scene?
So in terms of the handshake line, Ash is like, "Hey, we should get in line too," and everyone's like, "Yeah," and they get up and they go, and we see, and Ash's Squirtle is looking around like, "All right, I saw him," but and then all of a sudden he's just bum rushed by like kids, and they're being pulled in every direction and squeezed and hugged, and a couple of them are being picked up, and we see the Squirrel Squad's taking a group picture with a bunch of kids, and Jessie is off to the side at the merch stand, and she's like, the merch was moving quick today, and
they've sold out.
And James is like, that means all that's left is, and Meowth cuts him off and they're getting out of here and having a good meal. And Jessie gets on a bullhorn and she's like, all right, that'll do it for today. Everybody's, Squirrel Squad's got to be packing up and moving along. And of course, Ash and Misty and Brock were the only ones left in line. And Ash is like, well, you see that Squirtle there is a friend of ours, and could we just have a quick second? We just want to say, what's going on and everything. And Jessie's like, oh no, you see, and she points and she's like, after this, they're heading back to that hotel, and they've got lots to do, and they can't be dawdling. I mean, maybe the show went over as it is. She's like ushering them out. She's like, away with you now. Go on, shoo. And Misty's like, well, they must be busy being so popular. And see, Ash is kind of disappointed, and he's like, he just really wanted to say hi. And Pikachu's like, yeah, no shit. And so we see Ash is Squirtle taking a picture with a kid, and he just happens to look over at the exact second that Ash and the crew are walking away, and Squirtle's like, "The fuck?" And and we pan out and we see that the field is completely empty, and then we go back to the hotel, and Jesse's like, "Boy, your show was a real success today," and James is like, "Oh, you're making us so proud. You're making us so much money," and the other 4 Squirtles are just chowing.
They're having a good meal.
I mean, they're not even breathing, and the Squirtle in the yellow suit is done, and he's like waving his bowl for a refill, and Jesse's like, "Hey, keep this stuff coming," and and Boba Fett's talking with his mouth full, and Meowth's looking for seconds, and then we got some waiters with some trays coming, and then we go over to Ash's Squirtle, and he's just sitting there. He's got a bite of kibble in his hand, and he's just kind of looking, and
hella butthurt.
Yeah, and Jesse's looking over and like, "Hey, that one doesn't look too happy, does it?" And Jesse's like, "I hope it's not sick or something." And Squirtle's just like looking, and he's like having flashbacks of all the good moments he had, and then he gets just real angry. He's like, "Oh, son of a, ignore me, will you? I saw you. You know I saw you. We made eye contact." And then we get Meowth translating, because obviously the Squirrel's talking out loud. And he's like, "That one's saying, what? Am I not your friend anymore?" And Jesse's like, "What does that mean?" And Meow's like, "I don't know. I'm just a translator."
He's angry eating.
Yeah, he's just not even blinking. He's just
Yeah, I thought we were friends. You come here, and out of all the places in the world, I finally see you, and you're not even gonna come and say hi to me. All right, well, to hell with you.
And to make my
high five or nothing.
Yeah, and they're like, "You're like, really? You hit up Charizard and Bulbasaur, but not me?"
Yeah, because he saw Bulbasaur and Charizard, and he's like, "What was I chopped liver in this group? Come on!" And then, all right, so going off of there, we go to the next scene, and we see our trio with Charizard and Bulbasaur still out of their Pokeballs, and they're walking over to the hotel, it looks like. And then we have Hariyama. We're back at the construction site, and Hariyama is pounding a nail into the ground, and we see that Venonat that we saw earlier in the episode, and it's walking over to Hariyama, and Hariyama's like, no, you can't be here. This is a construction site. And Venonat's like, well, fine. And so it walks away, and then it walks into a grass field, and then from here we have a Spoink, and I always forget the other one, Makuhita. And we have a Spoink and Makuhita jump out.
Yellow Majin Buu.
I know, for real. That's exactly. He is literally a Majin Buu, but just yellow. Like almost to the T. Besides the little twist on its head, that is Majin Buu. If it was like a little baby, but they jump out at Venonat. And Venonat's like, hey, I want to play, and then they all go running off to. It looks like a spot that like right offshore, and they're just running over to a building. Makuhita Makuhita is like, yeah, I know a fun place. And they jump up to this building. It picks up Venonat and is like, come on, come in here. And Venonat, being so naive, is like, okay, I'm going to come with you. And they run into this little building. And then we jump straight over to the hotel that the Squirtle Squad is at, and Ash has his Charizard. How mad would you be if you're walking into a building and this dude has a Charizard with a flame on its tail, just walking into your hotel like it's nobody's business? I don't care if you're champion or not. You're gonna put that Charizard away.
Yeah, man, put that thing in its Pokeball.
That kind of made me mad when I was watching. I was like, "Come on, Ash!" But Ash and the gang walk into the hotel, and Ash is like, "Man, I wonder where Squirtle is." And he looks over, and Jesse's like, "What's that racket? What's going on?" And then she looks over and she's like, "Oh, it's the brat boy." Oh no, Meowth is like, "Oh, it's the brat boy again." Meow. I love that he says meow at the end of every sentence. And, and he's like, "Man, don't tell me they're here to take Squirtle back again." Jesse or James goes, and Jesse's like, "That is not funny. They're part of our they're part of our scheme of making money. He can't take Squirtle." Ash looks over at his Squirtle, and he's like, "Oh, there he is over there." So he starts running over, and Jesse and James just jump right in front of him, and they're like, "No one's allowed past here." And Ash is like, "Well, we just want to go and say hi." And the animation on Jesse and James' face is just priceless. They have the like most evil look on their face and most smug look, and they're like, "No." Ash is like, we're his friends, so let us go over and say hi." And they're like, "N-O means no." And I don't know how Charizard and Bulbasaur got around this thing, but Charizard and Bulbasaur snuck around Team Rocket and pop up right behind Ash's Squirtle, who's still angry eating. And he's like, "Ah, nah, nah, nah." And Charizard pats Squirtle on the head and he's like, "Hey, buddy." And Squirtle's like, "Hey, get away from me. What are you doing over here?" And Charizard is like, "Yo, buddy, calm down," and just does a little flamethrower, which is another reason he should be in his Pokeball.
Right.
Yeah.
And just burns
Oh,
the
man.
mess out of Squirtle.
And then the look on Squirtle's face.
It's funny because the rest of the Squirtle Squad, because he didn't just burn Ash's Squirtle, he burned all the Squirtle, and the rest of the Squirtle are just sitting there and they're just having a good old time. And Ash's Squirtle just had no chill. He just turns around, he's like, "Ah, bah, 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 bah. What are you doing?" And Charizard's like, "Calm down, buddy. It was just a joke." And Bulbasaur takes his vine and puts it on both their chins. Is like, "Will you two calm down, Sergio? I'm gonna have you take it from here."
Man, in the next part, it's a full-on Pokemon battle at this point. Squirtle's like, "Look, you ain't gonna punk me around. You're not about to just ignore me and come into my hotel, interrupt my meal, and then just burn us up." So Squirtle immediately completely ignoring Bulbasaur. Squirtle responds with his own water attack, shoots a water gun at Bulbasaur, Charizard, and Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur is just like, "Hey, well, like, really? Like, what is your problem?" Because now in the next part, we got Charizard kind of gliding in the air. He's kind of hovering over Bulbasaur. Both Bulbasaur and Charizard are staring at Squirtle like, "Bro, like, what is your problem?" And now at this point, Ash finally gets through Jesse and James because he caught on that all three of them were basically fighting each other. And Ash is like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa." He's like, "Hold on a sec. Like, take it easy." Of course, neither of them listen to Ash. They completely ignore him and just blast him. All three of them shoot we got, of course, Bulbasaur shooting a Razor Leaf, Squirtle's water gun, Charizard's flamethrower, and immediately hit Ash, who, of course, has Pikachu on his shoulder. And so Ash is like trying to find out what's up. He's like, "Hey, what's going on here? What are you fighting for? Calm down." And then he immediately starts talking to Squirtle. He's like, "Don't be like this. Like, come on, man. we haven't seen each other in a while. What's going on? Squirtle, of course, still hella butthurt because he thinks he ignored him. Just kind of gives him the cold shoulder. He's like, huh. And of course, now Ash is feeling it. Like, now he's got his feelings hurt. He's like, what's happened to you? Ash is probably like, man, the fame went to this guy's head. And of course, in the next part, here's the best part. Now they went on and pissed off the wrong Pokemon here, because now Pikachu is like, oh hell no. It's like, really? And I meet Pikachu in the angriest way ever, with the most angry face ever. He immediately starts dapping his cheeks. And then Jesse and James are still trying to hold Brock and Misty back. They're like, we told you no entry, and then boom. Pikachu explodes and just zaps everybody in the room, including the rest of the Squirtle Squad.
I might use. I have a screen frozen at 11 minutes and 4 seconds. I might use that as the screenshot for this episode when I go to put this episode up. Like that is, that is hilarious. And Pikachu is just in the middle. It's like, yeah, I did it. All of y'all are gonna shut up now.
Oh man. Pikachu has that face of somebody who's had a long day, and then to top it off, you're at a party and everything just goes wrong, and that person just explodes, and it's like, you know what? That's it. I am done.
Yep. All right, Doug. You want to go on to the next scene right after Pikachu shocks everybody?
So we see Bulbasaur and Charizard are exiting the screen, and we see that they're scuffed up from obviously the blast, and they're just like and Ash is trying to stop them from, because they're just walking away on their own volition. He's like, no, wait, stop, come back. And he turns to Squirtle and he's like, yo, I mean, what's going on here? And like, Squirtle's not giving him anything. And Misty's like, well, I think we should go catch your Pokemon because, they probably shouldn't be out of their Pokeballs in the first place. And Ash is like, hey, you know what? That's a fair point. And Squirtle kind of looks over his shoulder as Ash and them are walking away. He's like, son of a bitch. And we see like a quick shot of the rest of the Squirtles sitting back at the table looking at their food like, I was eating that.
The pink one, the one in the pink outfit looks so sad that her food is burnt to a crisp.
Yes. And Jesse's like, now what in the world was all that about? And James is like, wouldn't this be our chance? And it's like Pikachu and his pals are vulnerable, and Jessie kind of gets this smirk, and she's like, that's a good point. And we then cut to the who's that Pokemon, and we find out that it's Squirtle, but the shot of Squirtle that they use is a shot of his ass. And if you tell me any different, I'm going to fight you.
That is not his ass. That is his tail.
Yeah, where's his tail come from?
That is his tail, Doug.
Yeah, well, tomato. And so we come back and we see that Ash and Brock and Misty have found a spot to eat. They're on this nice little outdoor patio. They're all three sitting at their spot, and we see that Charizard and Bulbasaur have still not been returned to their Pokeballs. And they're sitting on the steps of the patio with some bowls of food, and Pikachu's trying to sit between them and kind of like, hey, guys, what's going on? That was kind of awkward back there, wasn't it? Isn't everybody enjoying their food? Nobody's eating? Okay, just me. And Misty's like, they were cheering for it earlier, and Brock's like, what do you think made them fight? And Ash is like, I have no idea. And he's like, to me, Squirtle seemed pretty stubborn. And he's like, I don't know why. He's like, I don't know why that was either. And he turns over, he turns behind him and he goes, hey, Charizard, Bulbasaur, cheer up, will you? And they're just mad munching their food, and they just and Pikachu. I'm paused at 12:24, and Pikachu's sitting between them, like, well, this is just awkward. I picked a horrible spot. And
do you got room at the table, Ash?
I mean, for goodness sakes. And Ash is like, we're all friends. We traveled together. I mean, don't you remember that igloo when we all almost died? We get a flashback of Squirtle and Bulbasaur and obviously Charmander, and then we see a later shot of them running down a road. Ash is wearing like OG gear.
I have a problem with one of these montages.
Okay.
Like real quick. So there's a shot of Charizard flying Bulbasaur and Squirtle on its back. And if I'm remembering this properly, back in the Ash's Charizard was was basically put away. Well, not put away, but it was given over to that dragon trainer when it wasn't listening to Ash. I don't ever remember Charizard getting along with Squirtle and Bulbasaur when Ash still had Squirtle on his team. Unless this happened on an off episode that we don't know about.
It was on the in-between between a movie and the show coming back.
It must have been. It must have happened
behind the scenes.
I was about to say this must have happened during the Champions. Well, not even, because it's been with the Squirtle. That one makes no sense. I'm sorry. Someone write in and tell me and have that make sense of how Charizard was flying Squirtle. I can understand Bulbasaur, but not Squirtle. Squirtle was off in the Squirtle Squad and was never okay with Charizard at any point during the anime. Someone prove me wrong. Tell me, please.
I don't know. I can't because I was gonna say maybe it's got goodwill from it from when it was a Charmander, but that still wouldn't match up timeline wise.
If I remember correctly, I think didn't Charizard? Okay, Charizard started listening to Ash during the Orange Islands, right?
Yes.
And here's the question now, though. Did Ash take Squirtle onto Johto, didn't he? I think he had him there for a little bit.
Did he? Because we're in the middle of Johto right now. Does Ash still have Squirtle, or has Squirtle been given over? I can actually
Squirtle never came back.
Let's see.
Like once they met. Oh no! Wait, no, we haven't gotten there yet.
No, so yeah, you are right. So Sergio, thank you for that, because we are on the next episode when we get back to doing those will be episode 100, and I'm looking at this. Yeah, Charizard goes away pretty soon, and
Charizard goes away first, right?
Yeah, he goes away first before Squirtle. Okay. So there you go. People don't flood the email or the messages, because we just figured it out right now.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to remember. I was like, wait, which one goes away first? Charizard or Squirtle? But I believe Charizard is the first one.
Yes, he is. So, and that's actually coming up fairly soon. All right, cool.
Yeah, it is.
All right. So we go back from there, and Squirtle and Bulbasaur are thinking of all the good times, and it's at this point that they're like, "Wait a minute, no, we're mad at Squirtle," and they they shake their heads and they're like, "No," and Pikachu's still in the middle, like, "Man, Ash, are you sure there's no room at the table over there?" And we pan out and we have Jesse going, oh, they don't suspect a thing. And they're like, on top of making money with Squirtle, we can catch Pikachu and laugh like kings, meow. And this is funny because out of all, their budget must have been so low for these like little net rockets. They're like, all right, so we're shopping on Amazon today, but we can't quite get the $100 things right now. So we're gonna go and shop off of Wish and get like the $20 nets, because these nets were so weak that Meowth shot them out. A little bit of gust of wind took this net, and it flew right on top of a Hariyama, and Hariyama is like, what the fuck is this? And it takes it off, and it looks right over at Team Rocket. Was like, are you guys serious right now? And he takes the net, and I don't know why Jesse and James were even holding on to Meowth at this point, but they're holding on to Meowth, and Hariyama takes the net and just starts swinging and swinging and swinging over its head. And it's like, you guys are giving me a headache. And I'm tired of people coming over into this construction site, and just throws them up into the air. And Team Rocket is like, oh, this is an awful feeling. And they are gone. But actually, no, they're not gone. They fly all the way up in the air. We do not get the star that we normally get to say that they're blasting off. They come crashing down, and they land right on top of a camera up, and camera up is like, why are you on my back? And it does a big fire blast, and then Team Rocket's like, oh, this is an awful feeling, and they start flying into the air, and they're like, part 2, and then you get the nice little ting to show that Team Rocket is now gone. And then just flying up in the sky, we get a bunch of seagull, and the net was thrown as well by Hariyama, which that's bad on Hariyama. Stop! Don't. I mean, even though it landed on you, don't litter. But it lands on top of an exposed wire on top of a building. And that's where we go over to Officer Jenny talking to a trainer that has lost his Venonet, the Venonet that has run away with the other Pokemon earlier in the episode. Sergio, I'm going to hand this part over to you.
Yes. So yeah, we go back to the trainer who's looking for his Venonat. So he's talking to Officer Jenny. He's obviously reporting the loss of his Pokemon, and she asks him, when was the last time you saw your Pokemon? He was like, oh, I was crossing that intersection. And then that's when Officer Jenny's like, okay, she's like, she tries to tell the guy, we're going to, she tries to reassure the trainer, we're going to do what we can to find. And immediately, of course, we get a Brock interruption. Brock immediately goes in between Officer Jenny and this trainer with his little hard eyes, and then she's like, Brock is like Miss Junsa, which is obviously the Japanese name, and he's like, is something wrong? And then she, very politely, like, yeah, a Pokemon has gone missing. And then we get Brock get all pretty boy. We get a super close up to Brock's face. He even opens up his eyes. His whole face just gets a whole upgrade. And he's like, let me accompany you in your search. And this super, he's trying to, his usual.
He looks like in that episode of South Park when they were making fun of Japanese anime. Like he had
yeah.
He had that full look on his face.
Yeah, and then so of course Officer Jenny's like, no, I'm good, we'll be fine. And then Brock insists. He immediately whips out flowers out of nowhere. He's like, come on, don't be shy. And again, we get that super pretty boy close up to his face. And he's like, for you, fire, water. And then I don't know. And then we get Krogan. His Krogan comes out of his Pokeball. He immediately stabs him with his hand, with his little. I don't know what attack that is, but it's one of his poison type attacks. Immediately hits him in the hip, and then of course, since Misty's there as well, she immediately pinches and pulls Brock's ear, and they both carry him. Well, drag him along, and they're all like, she tells him, sorry, my episode went a little bit ahead. And then she's like, okay, don't bother her while she's working. She's like, double the straight men, double the punishment.
I've loved that line. I know it's not going to get transferred in English with that line, but
Exactly. Yeah, I was like, whoa.
So, all right. From there, Doug, you want to go over to the Makuhita and Venonat and Spoink?
So yeah, so we get a transition screen of Pikachu kind of going, this fucking guy, and yeah, then we're back in the warehouse with Makuhita and Spoink and Venonat, and Spoink is kind of up on higher ground, and Makuhita's coming after it, and then we see the power line that had the net land on it start to spark, and a flame comes on, and Officer Jenny's over with a trainer, with a Pokemon in a bicycle basket, and she's like, "Oh, thank you for your cooperation," and she turns around and she sees smoke off in the distance, and she's like, "Oh shit!" and she takes off running. And Brock's like, what do you suppose that noise is all about? And then they look up and they're like, holy shit, look at the smoke. And, and it's just billowing off in the distance. And then we cut back to Ash's Squirtle, and he's still brooding. But you can kind of actually see his eyes through the sunglasses, so they're not that effective, because if they're supposed to be polarized, I mean, that's, he better get his money back.
He's using one of the Team Rocket sunglasses.
There you go. He got the knockoff version. And he's kind of flashing back to his interaction he had earlier with Ash, and Ash is going, what happened to you? And Ash's Squirtle's like, yeah, what did happen to me? And the rest of the Squirtles are sitting around the table. They're looking concerned. They're not even eating. The Green Ranger does have a piece of food in his hand, but I think he's too afraid to do anything with it. And then we hear the wait staff is like, seems like a fire has started in the warehouse district. And the one guy goes, that's bad. Oh, shit.
No, that's good. That's good.
And it, as the screen closes in on Ash's Squirtle, we hear, we got to get the guest to safety. And to get the guest to safety. And the sunglasses flash, and Ash's Squirtle kind of jumps everybody to action. And we cut back to the warehouse, and the warehouse is completely engulfed in, like, it has gone up. And everybody's looking on, and the children are concerned. And then one kid's like, look, and then we pan over and we see the Squirtle Squad is on the roof,
dressed as Power Rangers.
And they're like, it's the Squirtle Fire Squad. And they jump, and they're shooting water guns towards the flames. And it's a big old honking, blaze. So I mean, they're giving it all they got, Captain. And it's not working. And Ash's Squirtle kind of has them kind of regroup and refocus their power. And the little girl's like, you can do it, Fire Squad. And Ash and crew run up, and they're like, I know that Squirtle. And Officer Jenny's like, all right, everybody stand back. No need to be crowded in like this.
Brock runs right over and he's like, I'll help you with this evacuation. Officer Jenny's like, you again. Brock is like, all right, everybody, stand back. You got it. And Ash is like, we gotta help. And he looks over at the two worst Pokemon to put out a fire Pokemon and a Pokemon that has leaves come out of its body. Like the worst Pokemon.
Catch on fire.
Yeah, exactly. And it's good at first because Charizard and Bulbasaur are like, hey, yeah, I'm not helping that Squirtle. That Squirtle went Hollywood. And Ash is like, well, if they're not going to listen to me, because it's like back in the old days when Charizard didn't listen to you. He's like, all right, Pikachu, you ready? And then Misty throws up her Pokeballs, and out comes her Politoed, her Clauncher, and her Psyduck. And I was almost like I was so happy that I was almost jumping when I saw this. I saw Psyduck come out of its Pokeball and actually not look confused, not look anything. Like this just shows how much training that she has done with this Psyduck. And she said, everybody water gun. And all of her Pokemon started squirting water gun, including her Psyduck. I was so happy to see that. Well, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but that just shows the evolvement that she has had with her Squirtle.
True.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially since in the past he was just kind of be scared of whatever situation he was placed in.
Yeah. So, but at this moment, Ash is looking over at Squirtle, and Squirtle is getting discouraged. And Ash is like, "No, you can do it, Squirtle." And Squirtle continues to help on with the fire squad, and it just does its water gun attack, and it rips off its Power Ranger outfit. It puts on its badass outfit, its little jacket, and the rest of the Squirtle Squad is like, yeah! And they take their Power Ranger gear off too, and they're now looking all the same in their cohesive little jackets and their sunglasses. Ash's Squirtle starts having a little huddle with the Squirtle Squad, and they're like, yeah, you guys ready? And go. And it's like hydro pump into the building. All the Pokemon are trying to put out all of these fires. And it's at this point, and Ash is like, whoa, this is cool. And he's like, Misty, can you connect this hose to the water main, please? And Misty is like, yeah, I got you. And Sergio, I'm going to hand this part over to you.
Yeah. So and then from here, so yeah, Ash gets a hose, and that's when he immediately starts also spraying water, and then Billy Pikachu starts charging up. Is that what Pikachu's doing there?
It looked like it, and I was like, Pikachu, you better not electrocute anything.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what's Pikachu about to do? I'm like, we don't really need electricity right now. Yeah, and then we get like a gust of wind from the shows, kind of from the ocean, and then it starts, blowing out the fire. And then Officer Jenny, everyone's kind of looking over, and Misty's like, Ash, look, before it spreads. And that's when Ash's Squirtle commands everybody to move, to start shooting water more towards where the where the wind blew the fire towards. And that's when finally we get the scene cuts to Bulbasaur and Charizard, and they're kind of looking over. You would think that even before things got bad, they would have already immediately to jumped and done something. Because at the end of the day, they're powered creatures. I don't really know how much Bulbasaur can do, but at least Charizard could have done something more, being such a strong, flying creature. But obviously, these guys were like, "We're not gonna help. Like, screw Squirtle, screw everybody else right now. We're gonna sit here and watch you struggle while this building burns down."
For real.
And Bulbasaur finally looks at Charizard. They're like, "Hey, come on now, it's not that serious. Let's jump in and see what we can do." And then that's where we cut back to now it's Ash, with Polytoad, Clauncher, Psyduck, the rest of the Squirtle Squad. They're all, shooting out their water gun as much as they can. Even Ash with his little hose right there. And then the fire's now going out. Now it's catching on. Now finally we get right when the fire was about to hit a tree, Bulbasaur shoots out a razor leaf to kind of stop it. I don't really know how much leaves can really do against actual fire, but
I was thinking the same thing. Like, Bulbasaur, I know you're trying to help, but you're probably going to be spreading this fire more than helping. Come on.
Exactly. And then Ash pretty much looks at Bulbasaur. He praises him like, "Hey, buddy, like, you're here." And then Charizard immediately jumps in and he starts, kind of building up a gust of wind with his own wings, which I guess at this point is a little bit more useful than actual leaves. And that's when finally they all, Bulbasaur and Charizard, make eye contact with Ash's Squirtle. Ash's Squirtle, takes off his sunglasses and his shades, and they all smile together like, "Yeah, hell yeah, we got this." Boom. And then we get everybody, kind of throwing in a little bit of their attacks. And thank God Charizard's not choosing this moment to do a flamethrower. And the whole team was working together to turn off this fire. And then we got a little boy here. Little boy immediately points up like, "Hey, look up at the roof. We got Pokemon up there." And then that's where we see the Venonat, the Makuhita, and the Spoink from earlier. And then the trainer immediately recognizes, his Venonat is like, "Oh no," he's like, "That's my little guy right there." And that's when Ash is like, "Hey, okay, Charizard, come on. Bulbasaur, you too. Squirtle, come on." So they immediately jump on Charizard, and Charizard goes straight to, save the little Pokemon. And you guys want to go ahead and take over from here?
Yeah, Doug, go ahead and go over the next part of the scene.
So at first, when I watched this the first time, I was kind of mad that Ash took Squirtle away from the greater effort of putting the fire out. But then I was like, oh, because he wanted to take down the fire that was directly in front of the 3 Pokemon that were trapped on top of the roof. I was like, okay, that makes sense. So Squirtle does that, and then Bulbasaur uses his Vine Whip to grab up the 3 in the huddle, and he pulls them on top of Charizard, and Ash is like, "That's good shit." And and the little kids are like, "Could that be?" And and they're like, "It's the actual, like, honest to God Squirtle Squad." Never mind the fact that they've been standing here for the past 15 minutes, and we see.
Oh no, I now after watching this a second time, they're not referencing the Squirtle Squad, those kids. So they recognize someone else, which we're gonna find out in just a second.
Okay, yeah, that just clicked. Okay. So we see that the fire gradually goes out on the buildings. I mean, obviously the buildings are still charred, but obviously the fire's out, and Ash is like, "That's all right, we did it, yay!" And Squirtle jumps into Ash's arms, and Bulbasaur comes over, and the rest of the Squirtles, and Politoad, and everybody, and then Charizard's so happy he just lights everybody on fire. And
he's like, "Oops!"
And Ash, and Charizard's kind of like, see, what happened was, and then Ash and Squirtle and Pikachu kind of have a moment, and Misty's like, we never did quite figure out why they were fighting, and Brock's like, well, I mean, they made up now. Really, I mean, and all's well that's bygones and bygones and all that stuff. And then we get our customary blink and you miss it glimpse of Latias.
Yes.
Looking over the scene. And then we have this police car speeding up to the warehouse, and then we actually get the rare sight of 2 Officer Jennies having a moment. which I believe. I mean, we had it a couple times with some Nurse Joys, but I don't know. I mean, probably a couple times, but it's still kind of neat to see more than one Nurse Joy or Officer Jenny in the same spot. And Brock can't handle it. It's like, oh my God, two of them. Oh my God. And, he's like, double the Nurse Joys, double the joy. And I was like, double the Officer Jenny's, double the joy, which I was like, it's a little on the nose, but it'll do. And, and then,
we find out that the Squirtle Squad was stolen.
yes. Which makes a lot of sense. I mean, obviously now that we have the whole picture in front of us. But why kind of makes the Squirtle Squad idiots, doesn't it?
A little
I was
bit.
just thinking something along the lines of that. But you know what? Let's be honest. They probably they used the food and all the fame as bait, and they just went along with it.
Yeah, and Team Rocket probably, because we've seen how Jesse has impersonated Officer Jenny before. So she probably impersonated Officer Jenny, said, okay, Squirtle Squad, I need you to go over with those two over there. And it was Meowth and James, and just ended up stealing the Squirtle Squad and was able to get away with them. That's what that's the imagination I used in my head.
Yeah, I mean that
Makes sense.
that's good. That's good enough for government work.
I needed something to make sense, because I was like, they're trying their best to cut all the loose ends, but yeah, we have no idea how Team Rocket ended up getting Squirtle Squad.
Yeah,
But,
right. That's a whole nother episode, and we don't have that.
No, we do not. But Doug, you can go ahead and wrap up the rest of this episode.
So the nurse, I keep saying Nurse Joy, the Officer Jenny that is basically bringing the Squirtle Squad back to where they come from. She's like, well, I'll tell you what, y'all can keep the merch proceeds. And the Nurse Jenny in the town, the Nurse Jenny, I'm getting real good. The Officer Jenny in the town with the fire is like, well, gee, I really appreciate it. We can use the funds to rebuild the warehouse district. And then Ash turns to the Squirtle Squad, and he's like, you're off to another town, huh? And Squirrel's kind of like, well, that's the job. And Officer Jenny's like, well, they got a lot of people waiting on them. And he's like, give them hell, Squirtle Squad. And Charizard's like,
yeah.
And then we see the rest of the Squirtle Squad are in the back of the car, and they're waving. And then we see Ash's Squirtle. Ash's Squirtle.
You're hitting it out of the park, Doug.
It's almost the end of the episode. Ash's Squirtle's the last one to get in the car, and he's like, "Hey, we should battle together again sometime." And Squirtle kind of turns and takes off his shades, and he's got like tears in his eyes, and he jumps, and they finally have the moment they should have had at the handshake line, and the car's driving off, and Ash is waving with his cap, and then when all of a sudden we hear, "Hey!" and "Wait!" and we think, oh, it's a bunch of little kids, and they're too late to get one last moment with the Squirtle Squad. And Brock's like, they must really be famous. And then we hear one kid go, "I was right. That's Ash. He won the league." And they're like stampeding. They're like, "Sign this!" And they got like papers, and they got their phones out, and there's dust. And Ash is like, you made little old me. And
yeah, because Ash is a celebrity now.
And Brock's like, guess we had a famous face with us as well this whole time. And the crowd of people just engulf Ash, and they're like, "Let me hug Pikachu," Mr. Ash, Mr. Brock, and no, Mr. She's like, one person's like, Miss Misty, Mr. Brock, so everybody's getting in on the action. And then we get the narrator basically saying that they've successfully wished Squirtle well in his travels with the squad, and now they must continue on their adventure. And we fade out as the scrum continues, and the narrator says, "What kind of Pokemon and adventures await them?"
Yes. And then that is the end of the episode. And then we are going to, because I actually didn't even look at this myself. So I'm going to view this for the first time right now. And, it skipped it.
Yeah, it skipped it this week.
No.
Are you guys referring to?
Oh, no. It's still going. I thought it was going to cut off. Yeah, no, it's still going. It's just it felt like it started in the middle of it.
Yes. So, okay. So we get a clip of next week's episode, and it's like, oh no, this is bad. And it's showing that Pikachu is with Team Rocket. I'm actually watching this for the first time right now. And then we have Ash, Misty, and Brock running off into the distance. It looks like we have a glimpse of the sparrow that got clunked on the head in the very first episode. It looks like we have Pikachu and Meowth falling down a hole. We have a whole bunch of Venipede coming out of a tree. So Pikachu must get lost in this episode. And then we have a Caterpie string shotting Meowth and Pikachu. And then they're looking up at a moon. And this must be a two-parter because Ash, I'm guessing this is a two-parter. And Ash is looking up at the moon going, oh man, Pikachu, where could you be? And Pikachu's looking at the same moon. And then we find out the episode is called And We Gaze at the Same Moon. And that is next week's episode that we are going to cover. But what I wanted to talk about, and I'm really excited because I figured they were going to have at least one episode on this 11 episode series. Episode 1232, which is 4 episodes from now. It's called Rocket Dawn Strikes Back, which is Team Rocket. So Team Rocket Strikes Back. And we are going to get an episode revolving around Team Rocket. And hopefully it's going to be, I'm predicting, I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm predicting Team Rocket at some point is going to capture Pikachu and give it over to Giovanni. And Giovanni is like, what do you want me to do with this thing? Like, I am just waiting for it. I want that so bad.
Yeah.
But that is a month from now, and I'm ready. I am ready for that episode, and I hope it comes on that episode. Sergio, how did you like this episode that we just went over today? And what are you predicting for the future? And also, what would you give this out of 5 stars? I know that's a lot, but I'm gonna hand it on over to you and go.
This one was a real good one. Very obviously. Very nostalgic, probably the most nostalgic one so far, because we literally got to see Ash's first few Pokemon, being Bulbasaur, Charizard, Squirtle, and even Squirtle working with his Squirtle Squad. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. For my theories, this one, obviously, everything to me. From these episodes, at least, all these episodes have in common is that Latias is following Ash.
Yes.
So here's the big question, obviously. Where is this leading to? as for my own possible hopes, I hope it pays off. And one of the things that I'm wondering and I'm hoping for is that this Latias may want to Ash to catch her. And so that's where I think these next few episodes or somewhere down the line it's gonna lead up to, because it's like, if it's not that, then what's the point of Latias, following Ash around and these random adventures? Do you get me?
Yep.
It's either that, or I have another theory that I'm wondering if this Latias may possibly be lost, or maybe, obviously we all know that Latias is partnered up with Latios all the time. So I'm wondering if something happened to Latios and she's following Ash around to eventually be like, hey, I need your help. And I was just, kind of see if you're a trainer worthy of
Helping me.
being trusted.
Okay, that's that. That I didn't even think about Latios even being in any of these episodes, and that would make some type that would actually tie things together. I like that prediction. I like that
Yeah,
prediction.
maybe somewhere down the line, Latios might pop up, and that's a little theory I'm thinking of right now.
What would you give this episode? No, I mean, knowing your knowledge of Pokemon, out of 5 stars, what would you give this episode so far?
For this one, probably I'll give it a 3. I'll give it a solid 3.
Okay.
And now I know that right now there's really no big storyline, because obviously whether this would bump up the storyline or not, would I would integrate this with the grade, but because there is no big storyline right now, I'm not going to take that one too much into consideration. And I want to say the only thing that doesn't make it higher for me, a big thing on episodes is the music. So it
Yeah.
was sometimes, depending on the music, sometimes you guys, I'm pretty sure you guys realize that sometimes music makes a scene better or it drags it down.
Yeah.
And I want to say, like, for example, in the episode where Misty originally came out in these last few 11 episodes, they had used some of the original music, and I love that episode because of that. I'm like, oh shoot, like, okay, we got Misty here. Ash is gonna battle Misty, and they used some of the original music from back in the day. I'm like, okay, that definitely made it a lot better. So I really wished like we could have heard a lot more of the original music in this one, and I don't think they used it too much. So I probably would have graded it a 4 if it would have had more of the original music, but considering that it really didn't, I'm gonna give it a solid 3.
Okay. And it would have been good for them to start this episode with like a canto version, like music, like right at the beginning, like dun 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 dun, like they did
Yes.
back in the day. That could have been. I like the way you think, Sergio. Like you think out of the box, and I wouldn't have even thought to even have said that. But you're not wrong. They used some original music in that first episode, and yeah, it kind of tied it together. The nostalgia, Misty's coming back. Oh my gosh, this is going to be a great battle. I like that. Doug, what would you give this episode out of 5 stars?
Um, I'm gonna probably go ahead and maybe bump it up just a smidge, just because I enjoy, the reunion of Squirtle and Ash, and Squirtle Squad in its full glory, and a little nod to the Power Rangers, and we had a little bit of conflict, and they actually tied in that rogue Venonat, like it actually made sense for the episode, as opposed to just some weird guy with a Venonat. I'm probably gonna give this a 3.5. Like I say, I really enjoy the reunion. Um, Ash kind of rallying everybody together, like, hey, y'all used to be so close. Don't let a little spat, you know, come between us. And obviously, it was sparked on a complete misunderstanding, and we kind of smoothed that over. even though Brock kind of brushed under the rug at the end there. He's like, well, they made up. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, I think this is an easy 3.5. Could have gone a little higher if maybe we would have had like an actual proper battle or something. But yeah, I'm comfortable with a 3.5.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go a solid 3 myself. I think something big is going to happen in these episodes. Well, at least I'm hoping so. I mean, there has to be some big payoff amongst all these episodes. And I forgot to ask you, Doug. Knowing that that we've been giving somewhat small predictions for these episodes, and telling you that at least the TV guide is showing all the way up that Team Rocket's going to get one glorified episode. Now, what is your prediction so far in regards to what we might see coming or going forward?
Oh, I think it's a matter of, and I can't remember if this was said in like the first or second episode or whatever it was. Somebody said, like, we know this is Ash's swan song. Is this upcoming episode? Is this a way to write off Team Rocket as well and bring in another kind of looming evil force, or is Team Rocket going to kind of
continue
bump up their efforts, knowing that Ash might soon be out of the picture? And I think that a Team Rocket focused 25 minutes or whatever, it's overdue. Obviously, we had the issues that prevented them from running those episodes back in black and white.
Yeah.
So it would be kind of nice to get like a fully fledged episode about Team Rocket that isn't just about them getting oiled and literally thrown away 10 minutes into a 25-minute episode.
Okay. And obviously, I already gave my predictions. So, Sergio, I would like to thank you again for coming on to this show and doing this episode. It's always a pleasure to have you on our show. So I know you have the Pokemon Adventures podcast. If you want to go ahead and get some plugs in as to where our fans can find you, if they want to hear any more of your material.
Yeah, of course. And once again, it's been a pleasure being part of your guys' podcast once again. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, like it was said before, me and my buddy Chaz, we have a podcast reviewing the Pokemon Adventures manga. So you guys can easily look us up on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other, platform that streams podcasts. Just simply search the Pokemon Adventures podcast and you'll find us. Right now we're tackling down volume 3. So if you guys want to hear us out, check us out. You guys could also find us on Instagram as the Pokemon Story, and on there just post anime clips. We post pictures, fan arts. I also like to post a lot of screenshots of the manga. So check us out. Check us out if you guys can. And like I said, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Doug, once again for having me.
Oh, absolutely. And hopefully this won't be the last time. Hopefully you'll be back for another episode in the later future as well. So thank you. So, all right. Any other, do you guys have anything else to say before we wrap up this episode? I'm going to start with Sergio, then I'll go to Doug, and then I'll go ahead and wrap up. Anything else, Sergio?
No, nothing that comes to mind. Let's just, we're going to have to wait a little bit and see what's going to happen with Ash's last few episodes. And I'm excited. And I'm also excited to hear you continue listening to you guys' reviews. And yeah, that's about it.
Okay. Well, and Doug, do you have anything else for this episode?
No, I don't think so. This was a really fun episode to talk about, and I'm excited for it to get out and for everybody to take a listen to it.
All right. Well, then, Sergio, go ahead and say goodbye to our audience, please.
Goodbye, everyone.
All right, and Doug, say goodbye, Doug.
Bye, Doug.
And this is Professor Chris G telling all of you, do not miss next week's episode because we are still continuing this 11 episode adventure, everybody, and we're not going to miss one. So have a good night, and I will see you next week.